it defines purpose for people. So, you know, work and hard work is important. So that's part of who I am. But my life's choices haven't been dictated by, a focus on work or a sense that I will give up this in order to succeed at work. It's been defined by all of the things that life brings you, some good luck, some choices along the way, the people you meet and the decisions you make.
Yeah, you said actually that's very interesting. You said once, if I'd met a man that I was tremendously in love with and the only thing he wanted was to have kids, then obviously maybe I might have made a different set of decisions. I mean, who knows with the what-ifs? But that isn't the way my life's played out, obviously. I mean, that it happens, but you don't plan it all in advance, in fact.
I don't think you can plan everything in advance.
No.
I mean, everybody's life is a combination of some deliberate decisions and some luck and some circumstances that life brings you. I've been someone who's, made my own choices. I don't regret any of my choices. I can imagine that, I could have lived a different life, but I'm very settled in the choices I've made and where it's taken me.
Yeah, and you plan to do this for quite a time. You've only just started. I mean, you could be Prime Minister for 20 years.
Well, I didn't quite plan to do this, the job of Prime Minister. I've joked in the past that, I wasn't the kid in kindergarten dreaming of being Prime Minister. I suspect that there are some people in politics today who were that kid in kindergarten, but I wasn't. And it never occurred to me that I could, be a parliamentarian or anything like that when I was a really young person. I got involved in politics in a more active way at university through student unions, and then across my 20s formed the aspiration that I could run for Parliament and make a contribution. And then, I used to say to people, gee, if I could become elected as a Labor member, if I could serve in a Labor government, if I could be Minister for Education or Minister for Workplace Relations, that'd be fantastic. As it is, I've got to do both of those roles and be Deputy Prime Minister and now Prime Minister, so it's more than I ever anticipated when this journey started.
What apart from the natural disasters that we were talking about earlier, what is your biggest challenge as Prime Minister of Australia now? I mean, is it to do with immigration or is it to do with something entirely different?
I think it is to do with harnessing our economic strength at the moment. We are experiencing a resources boom, which for wealth into our nation is the equivalent of the gold rush, gold rushes that we experienced in the 1800s. This is a lot of wealth coming into our country quickly. And that is fantastic for the country, but we've got to make sure that it's not just fantastic today, but it's making a long-term difference for the years that this country will have to make its way in the world after the resources boom. And I'm very focused on harnessing this wealth today to make a long-term difference to opportunity and prosperity in this country. I got into politics, public life, fuelled by an ambition that, every child should get a great education. I'm really conscious that education made me. I wouldn't be sitting here with David Frost if I hadn't had a great education and consequently a great life opportunity. And I want to make sure that that benefit is extended to others so we can use this wealth to make a difference to opportunity and prosperity and fairness for the long term.
Who were the people who influenced you, inspired you?
The most profound influences on me have been my parents. I mean, they are people who, through their lives, have shown the benefits of hard work and decency and an interest in the world, a great set of values about fairness and helping others. My father was always very interested in public affairs. He was a shift worker, and so on his days off he'd have parliamentary question time on the radio, and he would talk to us about the issues of the day. He'd talk to us about the culture that he brought with him from Wales, a culture of belief in trade unionism, of idolising the likes of Nye Bevan, and talking about what he had achieved in the politics of the United Kingdom. So that was all very pivotal for me and the shaping of me. And then I would also point to a family friend. I went to school with twin girls, Lynn and Kathy Polofsky, and we were great mates throughout all of our schooling. And their mother, Marlene Polofsky, was a big influence on me. She always said to me to aim high. She was the person who first suggested to me I should go into the law. And she, I think, reinforced in me a sense of aspiration and that you can make a difference.
You've, we've talked about Barry and so on, and in terms of the UK or England or Britain and so on, you've said on a number of occasions that you think that possibly the time that Australia should become a republic is when the Queen's reign comes to an end. That you think would be the right thing to do?
I'm certainly a Republican. I want to see our nation be a republic. But we've had a long-standing debate in this country. We actually had a referendum, yes, which didn't succeed. I think there is a real sense of connection to the Queen. She's been an important figure in the lives of many Australians, and we'll be very delighted to welcome her here this year if she is able to come for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. So there is a real affection for the Queen, and I do think that one of the things that might help with the transition in people's minds to the Republic is that that we make that move at a time beyond the current Queen's reign.
What's the actual tangible advantage of being a republic? I mean,
I don't think there is a tangible advantage. I think there is that intangible advantage of a sense of self and nationhood which comes from being a maturing country. Yeah. We will always have, strong ties to the United Kingdom. Our history will always give us that, and the way we structure our democracy and our system of government will always give us that strong sense of connection. And we are home to so many British migrants. But I think for many Australians, including myself, it's the next stage in our national journey as a country to say that we are a republic.
And tell me, Prime Minister, how does it work out with Kevin Rudd as Foreign Secretary and so on, in the sense that obviously, famously, you ousted him as Prime Minister. Do you think he still has, it'd be very human if he did, the hope of managing to reverse the situation and replace you again? How intimate can you be in that situation?
I think for Kevin, there is obviously a sense of sadness. You wouldn't be human if you weren't hurt by the events of last year and by losing the Prime Ministership. But it was foreign affairs that motivated him to come into public life. As a child in Queensland, he developed this fascination for China. It took him ultimately into our foreign service, into being a diplomat, and was a very big motivator in him making the decision to come into politics. And so as our Foreign Affairs Minister, he can pursue that lifetime passion. And he's enjoying it, and is a very active foreign minister and visiting around the world and very actively shaping our foreign policy engagement. And we very much pride ourselves on the terminology we always use is punching above our weight,
yes,
having more influence in world affairs than perhaps our strict size as a country would suggest that we should.
So we can say that people will say in the years to come that you and Kevin lived happily ever after.
I would hope so. And when we look at, I know that might, strike people as sort of odd or, difficult to comprehend, but we have, as a country, with the Howard government, had an example of Prime Minister Howard working alongside Foreign Minister Downer for all of the years of that government. Downer and Alexander Downer having been a leader of the Liberal Party at an earlier point in time. So these things are not unknown. Indeed, in contemporary UK politics, these things are not unknown.
Exactly, and they come together again later, absolutely. We mentioned earlier on in passing immigration. What would you like to do about immigration? I mean, it's obviously, the feelings of lots of Australians are that they'd like it to stop. Well, it's not practical for it to stop, but what would you like to do to limit it?
We've been a long-term welcoming country of new migrants. I mean, I'm one, migrated to this country. Migration really built this nation post-World War II, and Australians are very conscious of that and very conscious and proud of having developed a multicultural, peaceful, successful society through migration. In the modern age, I think people recognise that we do need to continue to have some skilled migration come into the country to keep fuelling this wealth and this resources boom. But I also think Australians rightly ask themselves the question, how can it be that big mining companies in the northwest of this country are crying out for work